Hey guys, today we're going to look at React Router. Up to now with React we've been easy to build single page applications. But what about when we want to add another page to our website, such as an about page or a contact page? That's when we use something like React Router. So I set up a very simple project using the Create React App generator. As you can see on the Google Chrome here, we have a very simple website. So first things first, let's go ahead and create a home page and an about page. So we'll jump into our code and we will create a folder inside source, components, which I've already done here as you can see. And we have a very simple home component here, and we also have an about component here. So in our app.js, we'll just update this and we'll import both of these components. So we'll import home from components, home, and we'll import about from about. What we'll do here is we'll just render our home component for now. So save that up, let that recompile, and we have our home page. Okay. So inside the home page, we're going to go ahead and add some more stuff here. So we want to add a h1, and underneath that we'll add a p tag that will bring us to the about page. So let's put this inside a div because we have multiple elements. So we'll have our h1 there, and we'll have our p tag here. Go to the about page. Save that up, come back, and we have that. Okay. So in our about page, we'll just have a simple h1 again, but we'll put this inside a div because we have multiple elements. And we'll have another p that says go back home. Save that up. Awesome. So nothing's showing up yet, obviously, because we're on the home page. So let's introduce React Router. So I have the GitHub here for React Router, and first things first, we need to go ahead and actually install it. So they use npm install React Router. I'm using Yarn, which is a nice faster npm. So let's go ahead and do yarn add and then React Router. It's going to go ahead and install. And what we need to do here is come back to our code, and first thing we need to do is go into our index.js file, and we need to change a few things here. So we need to import a few things from React Router. First thing is the router, which I'll explain in a moment. Next thing is a route. We also need to install or import, browser history, and this is all going to be coming from React Router. So what we'll do here is our app is our starter component. So we'll use the router, and this takes a history prop, and we'll let that equal to browser history. So first of all, what is this router about? Think of it as like a div in HTML, in that we wrap all our routes inside this. The history prop here tells React Router that we want to use browser history. And what is that? When we click the back button in Google Chrome or we're going back to another route, it allows the browser to recognize what was the previous route, i.e. the browser history. So inside here, we'll create our first route. So for example, we use the route, as you can see we've imported here. We'll say the route path is going to be equal to /, it'll be our initial route, and that's going to render. So we'll say the component it'll render will be our app component. Okay? So what we'll do here is our route path is / and it renders our app component. So all going well, our app will load up, come into this index.js, and see that we've imported a few things from React Router. We said that the router history is browser history, and our first route is / and the component it'll render is app. So we'll just double check to see if React Router is installed. It has. We'll go ahead and save our file here, and this should recompile hopefully. And all going well, we should see our home page still on the page. And we do, which is awesome, so we have no errors. So now let's take this a step further. As we know, we need to go to the about page. So what we want to do here is add an about route. So we can copy this just to be quicker, and we can say when someone goes to / about, we want to render the about component, okay? So we need to import that component. So we'll import about, and that's going to come from our source folder, I believe. We're already in our source folder, so it'll come from the components folder. And about. And we'll say when someone goes to about, we want to render the about component. So let's save this up. Come back to our website, and now if we go to /about, we get our about component. So awesome. As you can see, it's that simple to get React Router set up. Now, another thing to point out here is what's called the index route. Obviously, in a website, we might have some common styles, such as a nav bar or a sidebar. So in our about component, let's say we have a H1 here, not a great nav bar, but just for demo purposes, that this is a nav bar. So we want that to appear in the home page and the about page. So what we can do here is we can use children in React. So we can say this.props.children, and what will happen here is when we come to the index.js, when we're setting up React Router, we'll now use what's called the index route. So this will tell React Router that this is the initial component to render when someone hits the home page. So what we can do is come down here and say the index route, and it'll take one prop, which will just be the component to tell, which is the index component essentially. Excuse me. Will be the home component. Okay? So what's going to happen here is when someone goes to the home page, it's going to render the about component. Excuse me. And then the index route will say, okay, this will be injected into the this.props.children. So effectively, the home component will be injected here. So we don't need to import this anymore here, and we also can leave it out there. And in our home component, we just have the same thing. So save it up, and save all our files here. Come back to the website, and we're still on the about route, obviously. So we'll come back to our home page. We have an error saying home is not defined in index.js. So let's check this out. Home is not defined. Of course it's not, because we haven't actually imported that component. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. That comes from components /home. Save it up. And we now have our nav bar, but we don't see our home components. Let's see what's going on here. Index route does not make sense at the root of your route config. So what that means is we need to wrap our routes, okay? So what we can do is we can set up this route, but instead of closing it here, we will wrap these two routes inside it, okay? And again, kind of like a div in HTML. So when we're saying anyone goes to the about, or sorry, the /route, these are going to be the two child routes. So the index route will say this is the first component that I want to render, i.e., remember we're rendering the app component here. So it's going to take our consistent style and it's going to render the home component in there. If we set the about component as the index route, when we come to the first route on our website, i.e. the home page, it will render the about in here as well. So that's really handy using the props.children. We can utilize index route from React Router to kind of say this is the initial component that I want to inject there. So that's a really nice way to use common styles across our app, such as a nav bar or a sidebar. So what we're saying here is when someone comes to /, we want to render the app component, and then we'll nest these two routes inside that route. So this is nested routes. Okay? So we'll come back here, save it up, and refresh, and now we get our home page. So awesome. Okay? So let's just prove a fact here. Let's say we set the index route to the about component, and we save this up. You see we now get the about page as the initial route. Okay? So now that we have a home page coming up here, we want to go ahead and do some linking in React Router. So when we click this, we want to go to the about page. So let's have a look at that. So we'll come into our home component, and we will first of all import what's called link from React Router. So this is essentially like an anchor tag in HTML. And it's very, very simple. All we have to do is say link and give it a to prop, and where are we linking to? So we're going to link to /about, And like an anchor tag in HTML, we will just wrap the element inside what we want to link to. So when they click this P tag, we want to link to about. It's as simple as that. So what it'll do is it'll come back into your index.js where you set up your routes, and it'll look for any route that has an about path, which it does here, as you can see. So all going well, it should render our about component. So let's come back. We have an error. Link is a void element tag. I must have children. Check the render method of home. Okay, so we've made a quick mistake. Let's see what we've done. Link to, and that's because I gave a lowercase l. It's actually an uppercase L, so my bad. Okay, so now when we click this, it should go to the about page. So awesome, there you go. It's that simple, right? So now what we can do is we can go ahead and go into our about component, and you can see how easy it is to set up different linking in React Router. It really is really nice. So we can say import link again, and we're going to import that from React Router. And now what we can do is we can wrap this P tag inside a link, and again it takes the to prop, and we're going to link this to the home page, which is our initial route, and we're just going to put that inside there. Okay, so we'll save that up. We're in our about page. Now when we click this, we come back to our home page. Awesome. So if we go to the about page, you'll notice that if we click the back button, it goes back to the home page route. So that's the browser history. It knows which route was on the page before you went to a new route. Okay. So just to recap, what we've done here is we've installed React Router, we've brought in router, we've brought in route, we've brought in browser history and index route. So router is where you wrap all your routes inside. The route is then used to set up some routes, and as you can see here, we've nested routes inside, kind of like a parent route, okay? And we've done that because we want to set up an index route, and we want to set up some base styles that we use across different pages, such as a nav bar. So that's why we've used nested routes. The index route tells which component should be rendered into this.props.children first of all. So i.e. this is going to be our home page, because that makes sense. Then we looked at how we link between components using the link from React Router. So all you have to do is wrap an element inside this link and give it a to prop and the path that you want to link to. So it'll go back and look at your paths that you've set up and go ahead and link to that route. Last thing we'll look at is in a blog application, you might have different blogs, and you click on a blog and it shows you that blog's information, so the blog ID. So how would we use like wildcards or parameters? It's very, very easy actually. So let's say, for example, we'll create another component here and we'll just call this the about detail.js. And I have a little snippet, so I'm just going to use that to create a stateless component quickly. And we have about detail. And this is just going to render a p tag saying hello for now, okay? So what we'll do is we'll come back to our index.js first of all, and we'll go ahead and import that component. And that's going to come from our components about detail. And what we'll do is we'll set up another route. So we can say the route path is going to be equal to about / and this is where you add the wildcard. So you use a colon, and we can say name here as the parameter. And the component we want to render when that happens is going to be the about detail component. Okay? So now what we can do is in the about page, we can have another p tag here. So we'll just copy this to make it faster. So go to about detail and say hello. Okay? So what we can do is we can link to / about. And we can also pass, I think we can just do plus here, or we can actually just pass a name. So we can just pass Ray as a parameter. So that's going to come to the route about, and the wildcard will be name. So now in the about detail, we can simply pass props here, and we can do hello props.params, and then whatever you called the parameter. So in this case, we call it name. If you call this x, it would obviously be props.params.x. So I've called it name because I think that's pretty semantic. And we'll come back to our about detail, and then we can say props.params.name. So if I save that up and we come back to our website, we have an error. Root is not defined in index.js. It's obviously a typo. Yep. So we just forgot an E there. So we'll throw that in and save it up. Come back. So we can now go to our about page. And we can say go to about detail and say hello. And as you can see, the parameter has been passed in there. So if we put James here, it would obviously say hello James. So there you go. And you can see it's keeping the styles, the navbar, because this route here is nested inside this route here. And in that app component, we're using this.props.children. So that's a really kind of crushed in demo of React Router and how you might use it. I hope this video helped you out and cleared up a few issues and a few understandings about React Router, because it can get very, very overcomplicated, but it's only used to kind of go from different pages in your app. So if you had a website, you might build like an app component to be your main one. Then you might build a contact component for your contact page, and inside that you can render different little components. You're not restricted to what kind of components you render. So just remember that. In React, you kind of make up which components you want to go where. So thanks for watching, guys, and check out the next video, and hope this video helped you.